Hello and welcome back to another episode of Activist. I'm Gareth.
And I'm Jackie.
Today we have the wonderful Tash Peterson, aka Vegan Booty.
She may be a delicate, pretty wee female, but by God has Tash got some balls. When it comes to speaking out for the animals, Tash's bravery knows no bounds.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, leave a like on that video, and leave a comment if you learned something. I really hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did.
Tash, your activism has made headlines literally all over the world. However, for any of our viewers who somehow haven't already heard of the infamous Tash Peterson, can you tell us briefly who you are and what you do?
So I'm a 26-year-old passionate animal rights activist based in Perth, Western Australia. I've been an activist for about 3 years now, and I've always been a massive animal and nature lover. I grew up in the backyard of Western Australia, swimming with dolphins and going on a lot of family trips across the coast. So my childhood dream was to be a marine biologist. So I was always very connected to the animals and nature. And that's kind of what led me to veganism.
Brilliant. Because from what I understand as well, you're another one like many of us, didn't really know about veganism beforehand. So it was sort of the environmental sort of aspects first got you sort of wandering down the path?
Yes, I was always very environmentally conscious growing up. So initially learning the impacts that animal agriculture has on our planet is really what drove me to make that change overnight. And I was already beginning to make that connection with the animals. I just wasn't fully aware yet of the horrific cruelty happening in these industries, but I became passionate very quickly with the environmental side of things, and the more research I did, the more passionate I grew for the animal rights.
Definitely, yeah, for sure. And like you say, you've been passionate in all that kind of activism from the start, from the environment and to the animals. And once you made that switch, it was full on, you sort of a natural progression for you to sort of want to wear your beliefs as well on the outside. And that led to the creation of your own clothing brand, Vegan Clan, which is fantastic. I can't think of many people who'd be like, oh, I think I'll just go and make some clothes to go. But it must have been such a fun experience. And can you tell us a bit about your range and how it all came about?
Yeah, so very shortly after becoming vegan, I came up with the idea to create Vegan Clan because I thought, wow, clothing would be a fantastic idea to wear the message. And at that point in time, I didn't really know much about animal rights activism and the groups and stuff. So clothing was sort of my first form of activism, and I was trying to find vegan clothing online, and there were a few really good brands out there, but they weren't quite what I was looking for. I wanted clothing with a really powerful animal rights message, and all I could find was kind of slogans like friends not food and that sort of thing, which I absolutely love, but I wanted something really direct and powerful. And at that point in time, I also wanted that environmental message on my clothing as well. So that's when I sort of came up with the idea. And then after like a couple of years of a lot of money and time and creating these designs, I finally had enough savings to actually get the clothing bulk printed to be able to sell them. And I wanted like a fashionable look as well. So I kind of wanted that like streetwear look. I have the message all around, like on the sleeves, front and back. And yeah, that's kind of how it came about.
Yeah, I definitely get that when looking for vegan clothing. I was saying to Jackie earlier, it's like, you go out for a cookie as a vegan and all you can get is like the oatmeal one. And don't get me wrong, oatmeal cookies are great, but you don't always want that healthy sort of basic version. Sometimes you want that bad boy, you want that chocolate chip, you want something
exactly.
a little juicy that suits
you get something from Kmart, and you get a shirt and then you go and everybody, second person down the street is wearing the same Kmart, it's the same, getting something different. So no, good on you, that's brilliant. Exactly. And making it so cool as well, I love how you've, like you say, got the whole sleeves and everything going. So good on you. We will definitely make sure that we put a link to that for you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So I understand, like, once you got, I think I've got the timeline right here. When after setting up your sort of clothing stuff, you then decided to go off and do a bit of traveling as a vegan. How was it for you traveling abroad as sort of a newer vegan at that stage? Was it quite difficult to make your way around?
It was actually incredibly easy. I mean, yeah, it was probably about only 4 months into being vegan, I set off to travel across Europe, and I covered 20 countries in Europe, and I found it incredibly easy. I was overwhelmed, and it made my travel experience completely different, for the better, because I was able to look out for all these amazing different vegan places. And as we all know, Europe is very progressive, so it was quite easy in those countries to find these amazing vegan options. So I found that super easy, and I was really lucky to have found some vegetarian travelers as well, who I was able to turn vegan, and we all went off together to these amazing vegan places. And then the year after that, I actually traveled to the Caribbean and South America, and I thought, what am I getting myself into? This could be really hard. I could be living off rice and veggies, but that's okay. Let's see how it goes. And it was actually, I was overwhelmed by the vegan options, particularly across South America. It was incredible. Some of the best vegan food I've ever had. I only recall having one situation when I was in Cuba where I thought that I was going to miss a meal because there were no options available, but my travel guide went out on a hunt and found this massive juicy mango for me and gave it to me. So overall, like, the travel experiences as a vegan, I think I've been to about 30 countries as a vegan, are super easy, and it's so much fun.
Oh, that's awesome. Maybe that needs to be your next project, you know, Tash's vegan travel guide.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be great, because we see people all over, you know, in the Facebook groups all the time, in vegan groups, going, oh, you know, I want to go to this country, but I'm not sure. And so many people don't have the answers. So yeah, future project, that would be awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
So when you returned to Australia, you know, you got more into your activism again, and discovered organisations such as Anonymous for the Voiceless and also Direct Action Everywhere. What was it that drew you into particular, you know, to DXE?
It was set up a couple of years ago. So I'd already been quite involved with Anonymous for the Voiceless and the Save movement, and I thought they were great forms of activism, and of course I still think they are fantastic, but I guess I was drawn to direct action because it just seems so unique. It's something that I hadn't really heard about before, and I was keen to give it a go. And initially I was a bit nervous to do it. I thought, wow, this is really confrontational, you know, and I'm seeing a lot of negative public responses. So what is this? And I was just open to giving it a try, and I really kind of fell in love with this form of activism. I really feel like I've found my life calling doing this activism, and I'm so glad that I took that step to get out of my comfort zone and pursue it and give it a go, because I absolutely love it now. And now I'm one of the organisers of Direct Action Everywhere here in Perth. So yeah, it's fantastic.
That's awesome, man. It's like, so for a lot of us, we've heard of AV, and we've also heard of DXE, but a lot of us aren't entirely clear about how they sort of run. So can you explain to us a little bit about the difference between, say, doing an AV cube and then doing a direct action movement?
Yeah, so with Anonymous for the Voiceless, it's quite easygoing outreach, sort of a form of activism. So you've got people standing in a cube formation, holding television screens, playing footage inside meat, dairy and egg facilities and other industries that exploit animals. So it's sort of to draw the public in to start witnessing this footage, and then you can outreach and have a really good, effective conversation with them and question their lifestyle choices around animals and that sort of thing. Whereas direct action is more kind of generally confrontational, not all the time, but there's a lot of different styles of activism. So that could be going into a supermarket, holding signs, or with television screens. So it can sort of be similar in many ways and different in other ways. You can have other really confrontational things where you're going inside restaurants and chanting and shouting animal liberation now. And yeah, there's a lot of different sort of styles of it, but yeah, they differ and they're similar in many ways.
Yeah. Oh, that's good to know. Yeah. Thanks for the explanation. Because I mean, that's the whole purpose of this series, is we want to show activism across the board in all its different forms. And for those who don't know as much about various, groups and styles of activism, we want people to be like, oh yeah, so that's what that's about. This is a bit of me, So no, that's brilliant to know. And like I say, as well as being active in organizations, you've also done some very memorable activism on your own, such as your protests, in supermarkets and in butchers' stores. And that's where we first heard about you. In fact, I remember seeing you at a supermarket protest last Christmas. It hit the news here in New Zealand, and I was just like, whoa, that takes some serious balls, It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant, And what goes through your mind when you're walking into an environment like that, especially solo?
Well, before I do it, before I walk in, I am usually very nervous, but the nerves just completely disappear once I'm in that environment about to enter the supermarket. And the only thing that goes through my mind is, I hope none of the staff notice me or the security guards, so I can actually get a good amount of time in here. So I just walk really, really fast to somehow just sneak through and get to like the meat aisle of the supermarket. And yeah, I'm just kind of in that zone. I know that I'm there for the animals. I'm not nervous. I'm willing to kind of take on anything and just get that message out there.
So part of these sort of actions that you've done in the past, you quite often wear sort of a costume or bring props, which I think it's brilliant how you do that. You've even done a theatrical-based one around the Handmaid's Tale.
Handmaid's Tale. Get with the program.
But it's brilliant to see the level of creativity that you put into this form of activism. And how important is it to you that, you're doing this action, but you're doing it in that different way, that creative spin on it?
Yeah, I think it's critical to be as unique and creative as possible, because the more you can do so, the more media and public attention you'll receive, and therefore you're getting the animal rights message out to a bigger audience and you're putting it into the public dialogue. So for me, that is an essential element to my activism, because firstly, I've always loved creativity, and I can see the impact that it's having from doing so. So I love, all the different creative styles of activism.
It certainly makes an impact. And I think, along with your clothing range as well, you're constantly reinforcing that message. It's, you've been lied to, watch Dominion, which I love, even if you don't know what that is, it's like, oh, what's Dominion? I should probably go check that out. It's, it's just reinforcing. It's like the Joey Carbstrongs, you're just constantly never forgetting the victims and just always reinforcing that message. It looks fantastic, all the stuff that you put together. What sort of organisation and effort goes into doing one of these actions? Are they planned out over a matter of time, or are they literally having a coffee with friends and like, oh, let's go and do this? It sounds like a good idea, Is it kind of spontaneous or a bit more well-planned?
They sort of differ, to be honest. Usually they're more on the spontaneous side. Suddenly, I'll just have an idea pop to my head, and then I'll go out and buy the costume and organise with my filming friends to just do it within, weeks ahead of time. So usually not too much planning is involved, apart from just waiting, like if I have to buy costume stuff online and that sort of thing. But yeah, generally most of the time it's been quite spontaneous, usually just like a week or two before we've done the action. So yeah.
Must be pretty good buzz, leading up to it and not having a huge lead up, so it's, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I do like to I've always been more of a spontaneous sort of person, so I kind of like that style anyway, yeah.
I've got to actually ask, as a filmmaker, have you guys ever run into problems with, I know in a lot of supermarkets, they don't actually allow people to take photographs and film in there. They normally have like stickers on the windows, which, to be honest, I've ignored in the past. Have you guys had any problems with that whilst doing some of these actions?
Yeah, usually when the staff approach us during the actions, they will say you can't film in here, and we usually just resist and continue filming anyway, because from my understanding, there's no legal issues with filming inside the supermarkets. although I guess it differs when you are asked to, but I've never really had any issues. I always kind of resist that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. A friend of mine who works at Supermarket, he said it's something to do with showing employees' faces or something like that. So I think there probably are quite a few workarounds we can find. But previously in another interview, you mentioned how the media love to pick up the solo activist angle. And would you advise other people getting out there and trying the solo thing? But also at the same time, do you have any tips for keeping safe as a solo activist?
Yeah, I definitely recommend giving it a go. I think the media like to target individuals, and from my personal experience of activism, I'm quite overwhelmed with the impact that an individual activist can make, and the media actually really love telling that individual story and sensationalizing it, and everyone likes to get on board. So it definitely has received a huge amount of attention. And even though group forms of activism are fantastic too, I think this is quite unique in the style of, a solo person is doing this crazy thing. Everyone kind of wants to know about it and why this person is doing it. So I think it is very effective. So I definitely recommend giving it a go. But of course, you really do have to be careful for your own personal safety. I mean, I've lost count the number of times that I have actually been assaulted by staff members inside these supermarkets, to the point where someone, like a security guard, was over on top of my back trying to grab my phone from my hand. So definitely have to be careful and make sure that the person coming to film you is aware of that and can do their best to help you out in that situation, and just always having that understanding that something could happen, because it's definitely going to trigger a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. So, that was really good to know. It's valuable tips. Thank you. I mean, all of your activism has been really impactful in its own way, but I guess probably the biggest impact in the media, at least so far, is at was earlier this year at the Optus Stadium. You ran onto the pitch during a history-making football game, waving a flag which read "Right to Rescue," and this made headlines, all around the world. Can you tell us a bit about what that means, "Right to Rescue," and why you chose that message at that time?
Yeah, so the Right to Rescue is a campaign that was created in the US, and recently we've started to use it here in Australia. Basically, this campaign is to highlight the absurdity of prosecuting innocent people who are going inside these facilities that are exploiting animals to expose them and rescue animals and liberate them from these places of violence, whilst the people that are abusing the animals remain protected by the system. So it really kind of highlights that message, and that we want legal rights for animals and for ourselves to rescue these animals if they are suffering inside these facilities. So the reason I chose that particular opportunity to use the Right to Rescue message was because fellow activists here in Perth were actually being taken to court and charged for trespass and burglary for liberating a bobby calf at a local dairy farm. So I did this action just days before to really highlight that message and get more media coverage for this poor little bobby calf who was rescued but then taken back to the farm by the police when they found out about his liberation. So I think that Right to Rescue message is really essential to this movement, to make the public understand that these animals are suffering and they deserve rights as well.
Absolutely. And, it makes perfect sense when you were speaking about it and the Right to Rescue. And, I can't understand how that can be a bad thing to want to rescue an animal that's going to be, that's already suffering, is going to be, slaughtered. But what people don't realize, a lot of people don't realize that farm animals even need rescuing as such. But what people also don't realize with that Right to Rescue message is that it also covers, dogs and cats and others that they would be very quick to defend and want to rescue as well. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's on board with rescuing a dog from a meat farm in an Asian nation, but when it comes to rescuing a cow in our own country, everyone suddenly calls you a terrorist or an extremist. So it's very hypocritical, and we're just yeah, highlighting that message that if you support someone rescuing a dog, then why aren't you supporting someone rescuing a cow? Because they're all sentient beings that deserve the same rights to life.
Yeah, that's so true. You're someone who really excels in getting these causes right in the limelight, using the media, using it against themselves almost. And you've got a presence on quite a few platforms now, but TikTok, especially at the moment, is somewhere where you're reaching a new generation of vegans. You're hitting that younger learning crowd. Can you explain a little bit about the platform for our viewers and how you use it for activism?
So yeah, TikTok is an absolutely incredible platform. Like most of you fellow vegans, I'm sure you feel like sometimes you're preaching to vegans when you're posting your content online, and that's what happens on Facebook and Instagram. But what makes TikTok so unique is that when you post content, it's getting pushed out to non-followers. So that's a huge amount of non-vegans. And not only that, it's getting pushed out to thousands and thousands of people. Obviously, it depends on the type of content you're putting out there, but I've had a couple of videos now that have received about 1.5 million views. So it's a huge amount of people. It's having this massive impact. It's so easy to get heaps of views and lots of followers. And as you mentioned before, there are a lot of children and teenagers on this platform. So that's even more important to get that message to our future generations. And what I'm finding is that I'm getting messages almost daily now from these younger people saying, thank you, I want to go vegan now because I've seen your videos and I've seen the truth. So yeah, it's an absolutely incredible platform.
Well, thank you for that explanation, because I've been someone who looked into YouTube for quite a while, and that's the whole goal of when you start a YouTube channel, is to try and get your content to have enough views so that it gets put out into the main field where everyone else is going to see it, not just your subscribers. And it's brilliant to know that TikTok is that, almost like Kickstarter for it. And
yeah, I always thought it was just people doing dances, so I need to look into this more.
Yeah,
but it's brilliant.
I actually thought as well, but yeah, it's amazing. You can use it for whatever you want. Yeah.
I need to look into it more, and it's wonderful it's having such an effect. It's like we were talking to Dr. Michael Clapper a little while back, and like he is going around to the first year medical students, and educating them on, to teach their patients to, look at what your patients are eating. Again, it's that kind of educate them young, before everybody else gets to them type of thing. And it's brilliant that you make it so cool. You've got Vegan Clan, you've got Vegan Booty, you've got all of those things that, people are just naturally drawn to at that age and kind of like, oh, what's that about? So, good on you. It's brilliant. I must investigate. As well as reaching a wider audience with your TikTok activism, it also shows a different side of the Tash Peterson that many people might expect. For me, even, when I heard about all the wild and crazy things you're doing, I was like, oh God, this must be a really aggressive person, to do such confrontational stuff, and certainly the old school media would have us believe that, you're this hardcore, angry vegan stereotype when, in fact, the Tash that we've seen, well, here today, but also before that on watching your videos, we've been really surprised that, you actually come across as a really sweet person, quite eloquent, or very eloquent, in fact, and just very peaceful in the way that you carry out your activism. So is this one of the benefits of using a platform like TikTok?
Yes, definitely. We have our own media at our hands, and TikTok is perfect for that. So yeah, I've been able to use it for a number of different things when I've received a lot of hate from my activism because the media has twisted the narrative or made me to be out that type of person. And then I can use my TikTok platform to explain not only why I'm doing what I'm doing, but who I am really as a person, so they can actually see this personal side of me and make that connection. And I've seen that work a lot of times where people have messaged me to say, I've come to message you with hate and abuse because I've seen you on the media, but I've just had a quick scroll through your Facebook or your TikTok page, and now I can see why you're doing what you're doing and who you actually are as a person. So to make that sort of personal connection with people is really important, and that's why, yeah, that platform is really good for that.
Yeah, it's one of the things that comes with getting a lot of attention as you do get a lot of the haters, unfortunately. And you seem to get especially ones with big bushy beards. I don't know why, but we love how you take the time, though, to actually respond to each one of these whenever you're able to. Why do you take the time to respond to all the haters, because for a lot of us, we'd sort of just, put the phone down, walk away. Like, what brings you to talk to these people?
I just find it hard to ignore people. I've always been a bit of a fighter. So initially it was just because I wanted to respond to them and get that message out there and see if they can change without really thinking about it. But then over time, actually seeing the impact that it was able to make and actually get a lot of people to end up agreeing with me or watching Dominion because I've taken out that time to respond to them with compassion, no matter how many nasty names they've called me, is actually quite incredible because, people just realize that, oh, she's not responding with hate. She isn't actually this aggressive, crazy person that I thought she was. Maybe I'll actually listen to what she has to say. And because of that, I've had a lot of people apologizing for calling me names, and a lot of people actually end up going vegan. So that's why I think it's so important to try and respond to everyone, no matter what they're saying to you.
Definitely. No, it's a great way to cope with it. And, it's very easy to be a keyboard warrior, isn't it? When you're nameless and faceless and all of that. But when someone's actually calling you out and be like, actually, I see you, I've noticed you, and I'm going to, explain and show another perspective. It's, good on you for doing that. It's great. I know, a lot of people would just be like, block, delete, so, but it's awesome that, it's making a difference. Certainly once I explained, I can't remember which interview it was. It may have been with Kevin Luna, I think.
Vegan Luna.
Luna podcast. It may have been that one when you were explaining, right to rescue and that kind of, what it meant. And as soon as I heard that definition myself, I was like, that makes total sense. And so, knowing that, I was like, well, why are people getting angry about you talking about a right to rescue? This could be the dog in the neighbor's backyard next door to them. It could be anything. But, why does what you do make people so angry, do you think?
I think because people are being confronted with the truth and being made aware of the fact that they are participating in profiting animal abuse and murder. So I guess social change has never been comfortable, and when confronted with such a massive truth that with the realization that you have been lied to your entire life, to go against your morals and values, which is often against animal abuse, that's initially why a lot of people do react with this aggression and hate. And initially they probably will have an opposition towards vegans, but now that they've been hit with the truth of this message, they're more likely to change. And unfortunately, a lot of vegans are against forms of activism that I do, particularly the direct action sort of stuff, because all they're seeing is this negative public response. So they're saying, well, it's damaging the movement, it's not giving vegans a good name, and that sort of thing. So I can understand as an outsider seeing that as a negative thing, but as crazy as it sounds, all this negative responses is only a sign that positive change is actually happening, because we're reaching this mass audience with the animal rights message. And as I said, they're going to be more likely to change down the future. And history has shown this, that direct action is an essential aspect to creating social change. And I think it is an essential aspect of the animal rights movement.
Yeah, it's sowing those seeds, isn't it?
Yeah, we really agree with that, because once again, this is part of why we're doing this series, is to hopefully get people to understand the different forms of activism. And like, even for me, when I first got into being vegan, I didn't understand some forms. I was like, whoa, that's way hardcore. But the more, especially through doing this series, speaking to people like Jerry Armstrong and stuff, and getting, and yourself, getting those insights on it allows us to understand it better. And then even if it's not your cup of tea, it's a lot easier to just encourage it, when you understand it properly. It's too easy just to throw throw blame and throw hate at stuff, and it's a lot harder to open yourself to these things. I
think everything, different things resonate with different people, don't they? And I remember when I first saw the footage of you in the supermarket, I saw some people like, oh, you're not going to stop me having my, roast lamb or roast pork or whatever. But if that was me, and, you're always going to get that because, like you say, they don't like being confronted. But I kind of put myself in a customer's shoes, and I was thinking, God, if I was confronted by someone like yourself that was standing there covered in, blood, and I would be horrified. But that would really make me look at what I'm doing. And so there's got to be a percentage of people in there that may not like that. And sorry, it might ruin your day, but go home and think about it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I think that action in particular was very visually, and listening to the sounds as well of the animals screaming in the supermarket was just so impactful. And it did trigger a lot of people. I received probably like 500 messages within one day from that action, but that just shows that it is having that impact for sure.
Wow. Yeah, it's definitely brilliant when you can have that that audio sort of sensory sort of element to it, and a bit of extra sort of mind games with them, and
especially at Christmas when everyone is so hell bent on consuming,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Besides, it can't be any worse than the Christmas carols. They're always going in the supermarket. So.
No, they're more blood curdling, aren't they? Really? Hey, tell you what, actually, one thing Gareth wanted to say to you about, we saw one of your actions recently where you were in outside of butchers and you had a human hand, which made you think of a book that you really need to read.
Yeah, we on part of the series we've got Agostina Bazterrica coming up, and she's an author who wrote Tender is the Flesh, and that is I don't know if you've read it, but it is a gnarly book. But yeah, it's all about humans consuming humans, or as they call it, special meat in the book. And yeah, when I saw you with that prop of the human hand in the plastic wrap for the butchers there, I just thought, yeah, I wonder if you've given that one a read, because that one, might inspire a whole new range of props.
Yeah, it's all about the tables get well and truly turned. So
yeah, I haven't read it, but I'm intrigued now. I'll have to give it a go for some more inspiration.
I warn you, yeah, it's hardcore. I thought as a vegan, understanding sort of the concepts that are going on, it would make it easier. I think it might have made it harder, but
it's definitely a must read. At the same time, it's grueling, but it's a must read. So.
But one thing that we've really sort of touched on is how you've turned a lot of these haters into lovers of the movement and backers. And there's one chap in particular who I'm not going to name because he doesn't deserve any sort of credit, any sort of validation whatsoever. But he did a video of trying to take you down, and I was stoked to hear it was in that Vegan Luna podcast, which we'll link in this as well. Where you're saying how he was another one who got you a lot of followers from, that bad press turned into good press. So yeah, I understand you got quite a few followers from this person who we're not going to name because he doesn't deserve the credit.
Yeah, it kind of backfired on himself, I guess. I didn't really know who he was until someone said, hey, this guy with 1 million YouTube subscribers has made this video about you. And I'm thinking, oh God, what is this? And it was quite shocking, the content that he made, but he was only doing the animals and myself a favor, because that just allowed hundreds, if not thousands of people to come onto my YouTube channel and my other social medias to come and message me with all this hate. And then they've decided to look through my content and see why I'm doing what I'm doing, see the animals suffering, and realize, oh, that's what this girl's all about. Why is this guy hating on her so much? And a lot of them turned to follow me instead. And a few people did message me saying that they were going vegan because of it. So it was really cool to have that response, despite receiving so much hate from his followers.
Definitely.
One of my good mates shared that video on his page, and he tagged me in it, and I was just like, bro, I'm dropping you for a bit,
I think it's a great thing about, social media. While a lot of people, will just follow blindly like sheep, at the latest whatever's trending and that kind of thing, at least once you get there, you've got the freedom of actually researching things for ourselves, which is probably why we're seeing, you know, we were talking recently to the founder of Veganuary, and, you know, it's because of social media that, you know, concepts like that have just been able to just snowball. For our viewers, both young and a bit more mature like me, that have absolutely no idea what I'm doing, do you have any tips for getting into TikTok as a platform for activism? Or also like me, if they're not game enough themselves, how can we support vegan TikTokers? Is that even a thing, TikToker?
Yeah, that's the right word. Yeah.
I really do sound ancient now.
Oh, well, I suggest just starting off with creating an account. If you don't want to start creating your own videos yet, just follow as many vegans as you can and support their content by liking and sharing their videos. The algorithm really works by the watch time of the videos and the number of shares it has, as of course likes and comments are important too. So you can start off, just by supporting others, and then just getting an idea of what kind of content they're creating and what's working for them. And then you can sort of start sharing that on your own page. Everyone can share their own videos. You don't even have to create your own. And then if you want to start creating your own sort of thing and adding your own personal sort of touch to it, which I think is really important, because that's what's going to connect to the audience, your own sort of personal thing. So I really do recommend showing your face on that camera and creating that stuff. And you only have to create, you know, a 15 to 20-second video, and for all you know, it could end up in hundreds, if not thousands or millions of views. So I definitely recommend it. But if you are not game enough to do that, that's fine, because what I found a lot of time is just sharing videos that friends have taken inside facilities is really impactful, because everyone, you know, not everyone has seen these animals in these places of violence. And when you can share that on TikTok, everyone's very intrigued by that. So I found that's worked for me, as well as using Dominion footage. You just have to be really careful, because TikTok's quite sensitive to graphic sort of stuff. So try and lean on the non-graphic side. And you'll find that it'll probably do quite well and get lots of views.
Oh, that's amazing. Hopefully that helps a lot of our viewers out there and helps them getting into a bit more of activism of their own, or at least backing some of the wonderful folks like yourself. And we love everything that you do and how you take things just in your stride. You have the haters, you turn them into lovers, you know, not of the wrong kind. I know. I'll start that line again, because that probably sounds really bad. One of the things we love about you, I've gone red now.
I was going to say, look at you.
Tell you what are
you trying to say, darling?
Do you want to do that question? Because
which one? Oh, he's all over the place.
Signal to you.
Okay, all right. So yes, as I was sort of touching on before, you know, we love how you never lose focus, you never lose your, you know, you're always coming back to that message. And you know, we love just how you just take everything in your stride and never stop speaking your truth. And like you said, at the other end of the scale, you know, you just get so much positive feedback. What are some of the best things about doing your form of activism?
I think because personally, I just love it. And I think it's really important to use your activism to your advantage and use your own sort of skills and passions to surround that. So for me, direct acting and that creativity is something that I'm really passionate about and something I look forward to doing. Because if you're going to do activism and you're finding yourself becoming drained and not wanting to do it, it's not going to be good for you in the long term, and it's not going to be good for the animals, because you could just burn yourself out. So I think it's so important to be open-minded about types of activism if you're new to it, and try all sorts of different things. If you're not finding something that you're really liking, try something else, and use your own personal things to your advantage.
Well, thank you. That's some brilliant advice there.
Definitely. And even the TikTok, you know, it's got me feeling like, listening to the way you talk about it, it sounds so much fun. You know, I'm not going to inflict my dancing on anyone, but, you know, it sounds like
give it time. Give it time.
Need a few bowls of vegan wine, I think, before I start doing that. But no, it's great. You know, it's really obviously a platform that's well worth investigating. And you know, thank you for sharing so much knowledge about it with other vegans.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been really good. I think I've clocked up almost 7 million views in the past 28 days now. So it's amazing. Wow. It really is. I can't recommend it enough. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Well, you have so many great resources on your social media pages. And one of the videos that we really like is the one you did addressing parents, because you had so many sort of young followers messaging you and saying they want to go vegan, and parents sort of, I guess they must have been throwing up their arms in disgust, you know, how dare we get to go vegan? But yeah, you also linked to things like Dominion, which is, it seems to be one of the key things that you put forward because it's a brilliant documentary. Is there any other documentaries and stuff like that you like to put forward?
Yeah, I have quite a few favorites. I mean, Food Choices is the documentary that made me go vegan, so that's one that I'll always recommend. I think it's great because it covers all 3 benefits of going plant-based and vegan, because it focuses on the health and then the animal rights and the environment as well, to get that wholesome sort of perspective, because, you know, some people might be more into health and not make that connection with animals. And as I mentioned earlier, for me, I was more connected to learning the environmental impacts rather than the animals initially. So I think a lot of people come through different pathways and then they always end up coming into the animal rights sort of thing naturally. So Food Choices is definitely good. I really love The Game Changers, even though it doesn't really focus on animal rights apart from one section. I still find that an amazing overall film to sort of debunk those myths, because I mean, a lot of people are fearful of becoming vegan just because of their health. And I think to see something like that is a really good motivator to going into veganism. Just trying to think. Oh, I like COWSPIRACY as well. I think that's a really good one too. So yeah, there's a lot of amazing ones out there, but yeah, those 3 are probably, yeah, my favorites. Of course, Dominion will always be number 1.
It's great that you're, you know, just telling so many people about it, even just with what you're wearing, you know. So it's great. And I know I heard you say in an interview that when you first went vegan, you also really went into, you know, you researched everything really well, and you got into the whole, you know, whole food plant-based with all the medical, the doctors, the Dr. Klepper, who we've had the pleasure of interviewing as well. So, you know, you've got, you know, your stuff all the way around, you know. And he's the one that's always made the difference to me with COWSPIRACY as well. You know, he's forever changed the way that I look at dairy. So yeah, definitely would recommend that one. Tash, it has been such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for your time. And we really look forward to seeing what you come up with next. I'm sure you will keep us all on our toes. Yeah, we've got some great stuff on your website for starters, as Gareth said. Where can our viewers follow you to keep up with all your latest news and views and activism? Oh God, I was catching. What have you done to it?
Yeah, well, you can either search for me on all social media platforms under the name of Tash Peterson. Otherwise, I also do go by vganbooty, but there's no E in the vegan. It's just VGAN booty. And I've also just created my own website as well that sort of just links everything together. And it's also, I wanted to make it a really good resource for people interested in veganism and trying to understand it, as well as people wanting to become animal rights activists as well. So I have a lot of information. And yeah, you can just go to vganbooty.com.
Thank you for watching this episode. If you would like to support our speaker, then follow the links provided in the description. If you're enjoying this content, then please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave a like on some of our videos and drop some comments with the things that you've been learning from this series. We really appreciate all your love and support, and we can't wait to bring you the next episode. Thank you.